Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Scottish schools are in a bad way. Scottish education was once revered around the world as educational excellence, but is now so bad that the government removed the figures from World League tables out of sheer embarrassment. And it's not hard to see why, with 1 in 3 schools at a capacity in excess of 90% and 1 in 6 at actually over 100% capacity. There is no slack in the system. The teachers are massively overworked, the resources aren't there, and the pupils are suffering. We're going to take a look at this report to see why it is so bad and what could we ask can possibly be done about it. Here goes. So, high schools are beyond breaking point as 1 in 6 at full capacity. 1 and 6 are actually, as you will see in a minute, are beyond capacity. They're oversubscribed. So, SNP ministers have been accused of stretching the Scottish education system beyond breaking point after statistics revealed that 1 in 6 secondary schools have a pupil roll greater than a 100% capacity. This essentially means that teachers try to teach and they're teaching kids in corridors or in broom cupboards. Because they just don't have the room in the class. It's stunning, this happens. The data also shows that 1 in 3 secondary schools in Scotland are operating beyond 90% capacity. And again, that's a problem. Okay, you've still not hit your 100% capacity, so technically you've got capacity. But if you lose a teacher, then, you've got no cover. There's no cover for that if a teacher's off ill or something. And the other thing about high capacity rates like this, you find you may not have, for example, the requisite number of textbooks. And a child having to share, it just makes it more difficult to learn. You're not sitting there learning at your pace or taking in what you're doing. It's very difficult for the child to do that. And also things like science lessons, you may not have the resources there so that each child can they themselves do the particular experiment, whatever it be, in chemistry or physics or whatever. And so you're losing that experience of actually doing the experiment because you don't have the resources. The cumulative effect over 5 years of schooling could be 6 months to a year's loss effective learning. These children are leaving school literally behind their peers because there's not enough resources in the schools to push them to their limits, which is where every child should theoretically be pushed to their limit, in order to expand the mind, to learn, to maximise their chances in life. And it's just not there. They are actually damaging children's futures because of their ineptitude. But it's hardly surprising that this is the case. Obviously, with schools, budgets and things and whatever, that's local government, that's the county councils. However, they do get funding as well from central government, and they get guidance from central government, and they get the rules imposed from central government. And of course, who's the Minister for Education? Well, it's the one person you don't really want to be Minister of anything because she is a serial failure. She has failed at everything she's done. She is like, she's Humza Yousaf in a dress because it is, of course, Jenny Gilruth, a moron. But what do you do? What do you expect? It is the SNP. There's not many bright ones. But, of course, so this is what's happening. So for years, it's been depressed downwards. And it hasn't always been Jenny Gilruth for years. But, a whole series of ministers that are all one moron after the next. She's just the latest in a long line of morons. Anyway, the school estate statistics also highlight that 210 primary schools have a pupil roll reaching near maximum capacity, including 66 with a pupil roll greater than 100% capacity. So that problem of capacity isn't going away anytime soon because it's just going to move up a rung as every year goes past and they push them up. So unless they do something specific, put the money in, expand the resources, build a few more schools, it's a problem that's going to continue for a long time. Scottish Conservative Education Secretary Liam Kerr has claimed that years of neglect have left teachers trying to do their job with one hand tied behind their back. It doesn't help that they keep changing the rules on being able to discipline children either. And that's why that lack of discipline and the ability to discipline children is, of course, one of the reasons why so many teachers are leaving the profession. It's why they are actually struggling to get teachers into the schools in the first place. I remember as a child, we actually had a teacher in tears, and that was 40 years ago, 40 odd years ago now, when, you know, the discipline in schools was much, much harsher than it is now. We had teachers in tears because children are ruthless and cruel. He's also urged the SNP to invest in our schools and show support for the Scottish Conservatives' New Deal for teachers. Mr Kerr said, the SNP have left schools across Scotland stretched beyond breaking point, with pupils and teachers paying the price for 16 years of SNP neglect. Hundreds of schools are near or exceeding total capacity of the pupil roll, adding to the daily strain on teachers who have already been left trying to do their jobs with one hand tied behind their back due to a lack of resources. SNP ministers must urgently invest in our schools and support the Scottish Conservatives' New Deal for teachers so that pupils and staff are given the space to flourish in a productive learning environment. It's an ideal, but it's unlikely to happen, not without massive investment. And of course, that isn't going to happen. They would rather spend money wanking it away on independence referendum leaflets rather than putting money into schools where it's absolutely, positively, definitely needed. The Scottish Government has pointed to guidance it has produced for primary schools and said it will work with local authorities and partners to produce guidance for secondary schools. More blatant pro-nationalism garbage and propaganda is basically what it will be. A Scottish Government spokesman said, a quality learning environment is vital for young people's development, and investment by the Scottish Government has meant that since 2007, the number of schools in good or satisfactory condition has increased from 61% to 90.4%, seeing a 77% reduction in pupils educated in substandard conditions. Okay, it's very laudable having a very nice room, and having a nice environment in which to learn and be educated is important, but having quality textbooks, and enough of them, is importanter. While the management of school estates is the responsibility of local authorities, we intend to build on this progress through a £2 billion learning estate investment, which will benefit tens of thousands of children and young people. I'll believe it when I see it, and there's no clue as whether it means actually more books, more teachers, and the ability to discipline. We are currently giving careful consideration to local authorities' bids for Phase 3 of the programme and intend to announce the successful bid soon. It'll go to somebody's mate, because everything there is corrupt. Anyway, I shall round off there. I shall come up and we shall do do a summary here. But it is a bad state of affairs. And then they keep talking about throwing money at the problem, which is ideally what you need to do. But not just throw money at a problem. Have a plan. Have a sensible plan and direct specifically where the money is going to be spent. Anyway, coming up. So, okay, they're talking a good game. They're going to invest one day. They have this plan that they're going to start at some point in the future. They're talking that this will change in the fullness of time. And that's all very fine and pleasant, and I'm sure it'll be a good thing. However, the children have already gone through, the children are currently going through. They are coming out the back end of their education system, ill prepared for the world, not as educated as they need to be, not as trained, in the various skills that they will need to progress onto the next stage if they want to go to further education, or if they want to go into work, they're not having the necessary qualifications they need, or the levels of the qualifications they need, and so you're actually damaging one or possibly even two generations of children coming out of school because of the lack of investment and directly the policies of the SNP. That's what the SNP have done. They've created possibly two generations of children held back by a lack of a solid, proper, full educational ability. And that, I think, is a major shame. It's a shame for the children, but it's shameful for the SNP. They should hang their heads and look at the parents and say, we failed your children, and we're still failing your children. And we have no intention to stop failing your children. Because that's what they've done. And they've got no plans. They talk about it, but they're not implementing anything because they haven't got a plan. All they've got is a voice to say, oh, we will have a plan. We're planning for a plan. tossers. Anyway, I'll stop there. Thank you very much for listening. If you like what you see here on the channel, please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well. And remember, your kids only have one childhood. Do not waste it by letting them go through a Scottish education system if you can educate them at home. Goodbye.